Somewhere in Utah, an armed helicopter chases down a woman riding a bike on a lonely desert road. While she dodges bullets left and right from the warbird on her tail, a man flies through the sky with a mission. The man, who has a name tag that says Powers, pulls his chute and floats down to a car running on the road without a driver. He gets into the car and zooms off, soon appearing behind the woman on wheels and getting in front of the helicopter's bullets with bulletproof glass. In response to Powers' actions, the helicopter continues to rain down bullets. Powers pulls over, and when the helicopter turns to face his car, they both drive into each other. Just before the car gets under the helicopter, Powers manages to eject himself from the vehicle, launches himself into the sky, and opens fire on the aircraft with handguns. The biker lady pulls up beside Powers after the copter crashes and he lands safely on his feet. She introduces herself as FBI and Mother, Dixie Normus, and kisses Powers. They are interrupted by a bald man petting a cat along with a mini version of himself shooting a gun. Everything is revealed to be the set of a movie when the director yells cut. It's a Steven Spielberg film about the life of the real Austin Powers. He prances onto the movie set and begins dancing with everybody, soon transitioning to a performance on stage led by Stevie Wonder and then a dance battle with Britney Spears. Far away, within the mountains that house iconic Hollywood symbols, D-Evil is seen carrying his actual mini-clone. His subordinate, Number 2, gives him an update about the changes of his evil empire while he was in space. The Doctor finds out that there is now a talent agency responsible for managing several popular actors and actresses. He then reveals a perfect plan to use his time machine to go back in time and bring back a man called Goldmember to the future who could make a tractor beam work. Dr. Evil breaks into evil laughter with his henchmen but is unfortunately surrounded right after by Austin Powers and a couple of soldiers. The villain and his mini-clone are tried by the World Court and are sentenced to 400 years behind bars. Austin Powers is knighted by the Queen of England, just like his father, who is sadly missing from his knighting ceremony. The newly minted knight throws a huge party at his pad and sings about his father's absence. Fook Mi approaches him in the thick of the party and asks Powers for his autograph. She is soon joined by Fook Yu, her twin sister, who along with Fook Mi riles up Austin Powers. However, just as he is about to accomplish one of his bucket lists, the secret agent gets the news that his father had been kidnapped on his yacht. The men who protected his father before the kidnapping were shown to Powers. They came back unharmed but with something more golden inside their pants. He realizes that the only person that can fully understand this crime is none other than Dr. Evil. Austin Powers visits the bald villain in his heavily guarded prison cell and the evil doctor is waiting for him. Powers tells him that his father is missing and that he needs him, but the doctor tells him that he has some daddy issues. Dr. Evil takes Powers down memory lane to prove that his father had always been letting him down. The flashback takes the pair back in time to their days in the British Intelligence Academy, where even before they had started their international rivalry, Powers and Evil were roommates in school. On the school's graduation day, despite Evil being the top student in class, the younger Powers was awarded the position of the year's International Man of Mystery. Equivalent to being the valedictorian of the school, it was a pretty big deal and an important award to receive, but like always, Powers' father was absent for this. After they get back to the present, Dr. Evil whines a little about being passed up the award despite being the top student in school, but he begins to reveal what he knows about the kidnapping. The doctor lets Powers know that it was not a coincidence that the sailors guarding his father came back golden privates, but that it was the modus operandi of a criminal mastermind aptly named Goldmember. Powers, now in search of the villain named Goldmember, is given a choice by Dr. Evil. Before the doctor gives him up, he wants to be transferred to a regular prison so he can be rejoined with his mini-clone. The distraught son agrees to Evil's demand, and the doctor tells Powers that he would have to go back in time to find Goldmember and sends him away with a location. Powers is now in a time travel hangar, and he speculates with Basil exposition that Goldmember is hiding his father back in time and not just some remote location. Basil then reveals that the vehicle Powers was in was newly crafted by the engineers for time travel back to the 70s. The car's destination is set for 1975, and Powers is roughly thrown back into time. New York City is next shown in 1975. Not long after he arrives, the performance on stage draws his attention. Foxy Cleopatra sings and dances while being backed up by two women. After she catches the eyes of Powers, Cleopatra signals to him something which he seems to understand. She soon ends her steamy performance and then introduces the talked-about Goldmember into the limelight. Goldmember bursts into the scene amidst cheers from the crowd and then begins to engage them. After Goldmember's curious performance and Cleopatra rushes off stage, a man sits down beside Powers and begins to speak to him in a feminine voice. The strange-sounding man turns out to be a proxy used by Cleo to covertly speak with Powers. It appears that they know each other, but Powers had not called her in the 8 years before then. The foxy performer, Spy, tells Powers that she is working undercover in Goldmember's club because he is the prime suspect in in her former partner's death. Cleo also tells him his father is in the back room under heavy guard. The spy heads to the back, gun in hand, and kicks down the door in search of Daddy Dearest. He finds the older Powers in a tangle of women, enjoying himself and not in need of a rescue. He reluctantly is about to run away but is slowed down by a stiff neck, and when his son asks about it, it turns into the punchline of a joke. While the Powers duo sit together, the younger spy tells his father, Nigel Powers, to speak proper English when talking about naughty things in front of the Americans. The father and son Englishmen were still in a nostalgic daze when the bed which they sat on suddenly began to spin. They soon find themselves in Goldmember's office and he welcomes them to 1975 while Foxy Cleo files his nails. The same girls who were in a tangle of arms and legs with Nigel earlier now held guns leveled at them. While Goldmember changes, he tells Austin why he loves Gold and that they are quite alike. He offers them both different kinds of refreshments which the Powers refuse. In an outrage, Austin tells Goldmember that he is crazy, but the villain tells him that was how he liked it. Nigel then tells the villain to stop joking. Goldmember tells his men or ladies in this case to take Nigel away and then points a gun at Austin, telling him it was Dr. Evil's orders. However, before he can shoot Powers, Cleo knocks the gun away from him and points her gun at him. Goldmember knocks out the undercover performer with some nimble movement and gets another gun before running into the time machine, dragging Nigel along. Although Cleopatra is shocked at the mention of a time machine, she leads Austin away from the hail of bullets. In a rush, they both get into Austin's time-traveling car and successfully escape from Goldmember's hench ladies. Cleo then shows Austin a microfilm she picked up in her former boss's office. She tells the man of mystery that she wants to go to the future with him to catch Goldmember, and Austin agrees. With the press of a button, it becomes a bumpy ride that takes them both to the year 2002. Back in the present, Dr. Evil, who is now in a regular prison, is waiting for a visitor. Frau Farbacina soon comes in to tell him that his son wants to take over the family business. Frau suggests that Scotty Evil might be feeling neglected, but Dr. Evil reveals that he was adopted after a car accident killed his real parents. Visiting hours soon come to a close before Dr. Evil and Frey could turn the visit into a conjugal, but before he heads back to his confinement, he reveals a key that Frau had used the opportunity to slip to him. In the prison yard, Dr. Evil and his mini-clone swagger in to address the rest of the inmates. He tells them to start a riot so that the doctor and his clone could walk out of the prison. Skeptic at first, the inmates laugh it off as a joke, but then he launches into a performance that seems to convince them. Just as Dr. Evil requested, the inmates began their riot at 8 p.m., which allowed him and his mini-clone to make a break for it. Away from all the excitement, Cleo wakes up the next morning in the same house with Austin Powers. While he takes the time to show her some of the advancements the future has come up with, Basil walks in to join them. He tells them that Dr. Evil has escaped from prison and that one of their agents had finally infiltrated the bald villain's criminal organization. The mole is revealed to be number 3, and Austin cannot get past his actual mole. He tells them that Dr. Evil has moved to a new lair outside Tokyo, but isn't sure of the exact location. A huge submarine with an almost lifelike appearance of Dr. Evil is next seen in the waters of Tokyo Bay. The villainous doctor inside welcomes the crew to his new submarine. Goldmember sits among them and compliments Dr. Evil. Evil begins to talk about the tractor beam they have been designing, codenamed Preparation H. He plans to use the powerful beam to pull a meteor made of solid gold straight down to Earth, which would bring devastating consequences. Goldmember tells Dr. Evil that they still have an insurance policy, which turns out to be Nigel Powers, who is escorted out to meet Dr. Evil. Nigel takes down the armed guards but is stopped by the mini-clone and is then taken away. Austin and Foxy Cleo arrive in Tokyo and are sent to a sumo wrestling arena where they meet Fat Bastard, one of Dr. Evil's henchmen. After they place the chubby henchman under arrest, he spills the beans on Dr. Evil's operation. Back in the submarine, Scotty, who is glaring losing his hair, has a touching moment with his father, leaving the mini-clone out of it. Austin and Foxy follow the clue they got from Fat Bastard to Roboto Industries but get nothing from the president, Roboto. The spies, however, remain in the building to snoop around and soon find Roboto and Goldmember together, along with Preparation H and a golden key that operates it. Foxy confronts Goldmember, but the villain uses Nigel as a distraction to get away. They pursue after the Dutch after they save Nigel, but Goldmember gets away. The father and son have a falling out right after and go their separate ways. Number 3. The mole welcomes the mini-clone to their side, but Austin, who arrives shortly after, assaults him because he has no idea of Mini-Me's defection. Mini-Me leads Austin and Foxy to Dr. Evil's submarine, which they infiltrate, but Austin is soon caught, leaving Mini-Me and Foxy free reins of the submarine. After Austin is brought before Dr. Evil, he tries to show him Preparation H in action, but he finds out that the key is missing. Foxy swaggers out with the key, along with Mini-Me, which soon leads to Austin pointing a gun toward Dr. Evil with every intention of shooting. Nigel enters delivers the picture before he can and reveals that Dr. Evil is also his son. Shocked by the turn of events and at a loss for what to do, Austin decides to give Evil a chance, and it turns into a happy family reunion. Scotty is, however, still unhappy that his father is now turning good, and he runs off. Goldmember takes the spotlight next, and unlike Evil, he still wants to destroy the world. Foxy tries to stop him but is unsuccessful, so it's left to the newly formed Powers family to save the day. Austin, along with his brother Evil, successfully thwart Goldmember's attempt, and the story ends with a happy ending.
Thank you for watching. It may be easy for you to like and subscribe, but it means the world to us. Please subscribe for more movie recaps.